Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to this July 2022 Mr. Happiness 2000 broadcast. And tonight we are looking at Abraham-Hicks, God and Religion. As always, this is interactive, so do let me know where you're coming in from. Type away in the chat now, and we're going to talk. I'll obviously be talking about this subject for the next hour. But yeah, it makes it more fun, probably more engaging for you guys and girls if it's interactive, if I'm responding to you as we go along. So yeah, let's start chatting now. So tell me where you're streaming in from. Tell me where you heard about this workshop, as I'm always intrigued about that. And tell me how many of you have heard of Abraham-Hicks or know of the Abraham-Hicks philosophy in detail, because that's always of interest. So yeah, type away and I'll start responding to your comments as they come through. Welcome if you're just joining us now. Yeah, so I will admit this one is a biggie. It is potentially contentious. Religion, God, those concepts, those big world-defining concepts, yeah, are sort of fed to us from our early years and can shape our lives and our expectation and our beliefs around our lives for yeah, our entire lives. Okay, so what is said tonight may challenge some of your beliefs and experiences. None of what is said during this workshop is designed to be offensive. It's exploring this conversation. Yeah, the main aim of this, yeah, the choice of this subject, the reason I've chosen this subject, in line with the Abraham-Hicks teachings, is to promote self-empowerment, making you aware of your significance in the world. Because I know a lot of people, especially the Brits, stiff upper lip British, we're told to, be very small, not think much of ourselves, and we can go through life underachieving, not believing we're good enough, or have the validation to achieve and aspire for big things in life. Abraham-Hicks turns all that on its head and says we are all as important as each other. We're all making a significant contribution to the universe. So let's see what comments are coming through now. Tina from, is it Ardley? Found your meet up. Thank you. Tina, good to meet you tonight. And yeah, lovely. Oh, brilliant. It's all about love, isn't it? All about love. We got Sharon as well. Read several Abraham-Hicks books and found it really helpful to be settled emotionally. That is what it is all about. Yeah, brilliant. Tell us where you're coming in from, Sharon. Be good to know. I'm broadcasting from my room in West London. So yeah, really good to have you on board and talking with me at this early stage of the workshop. Okay. Yeah, so I'll be sharing my own experiences as well. At the end of this workshop will be a Q&A session. I'd love for you to share your experience with me as well. So share with me as we're going along your thoughts and experiences on what I say, on what the clips say. The structure of this workshop will be as usual now. It's going to be, I'll be playing 4 Abraham-Hicks clips. So it's coming from Abraham, not from me. And she'll be explaining their take on this topic, and where the shortcomings fall, and where we should all be thinking and be aware. Yeah. So, and as always with these topics, because all the Abraham-Hicks stuff, you can start talking about one specific topic, and it just starts to encompass other elements of our lives and ultimately our whole lives. So, we are all symbiont. One part of us is all of us, kind of thing. So yeah, let's get started. So about myself, let me just introduce myself, give you this talk tonight some context. My name is Steve Surridge. I'm Mr. Happiness 2000. Here's my website address. I do these monthly, promote them through Eventbrite and Meetup. So yeah, I'm a happiness coach, professional happiness coach. I called myself this when I was running a positive mental health charity in Portsmouth, way back from in 2009 to 2012. I worked with long-term unemployed young people, and I was lucky enough during the lifetime of that project to have my charity endorsed by Louise Hay of Hay House Publishing. That is me, with different colour hair then, when I met her. And yeah, and she endorsed the work I was doing. She said she'd never heard of anything so powerful working with young people. And yeah, what we used to do, just to give you an idea, we used to teach this stuff. I used to do week-long residentials. It was all grant-funded, take long-term unemployed people that obviously had some mental limitations happening in their lives, take them away on residential retreats where they were stuck with me and my sort of helpers for a week, and we would do lots of fun activities such as rock climbing, abseiling, kayaking, all that kind of thing. And so there were challenges. We give them physical challenges, and before those we went out and did those challenges, we'd do what I call thought management workshops, where we'd introduce them to this Abraham-Hicks philosophy, not as directly as I do on these workshops tonight, but we'd just get them to be aware of the fact their thoughts create their feelings, and what thoughts get them buzzing and what thoughts get them excited. So we talk about things like fear and overcoming obstacles, and that fear is only a limited mental perception, and that if you change your perspective of a situation, you don't feel the fear and you can overcome it and achieve the challenge before you. So we'd sort of talk about the hypothetics of that in the workshops, then we'd take them out in the afternoon, get them to climb a wall or abseil a wall, and obviously when they're faced with that challenge they'd be terrified, going, I can't do this. And then we'd remind them of the teachings, get them to focus differently, find a better feeling thought. Ultimately that's what the fundamental of all this philosophy is about. And then they would climb the wall, achieve it, feel the rush, the exhilaration of achievement, and that would kind of, just their physical experience would really embed within them the power of this work. And I was amazed, because I remember the first time I did it, about a week later I went back and saw the job centre manager, and she rushed across the room to me and said, Steve, what the hell have you done to my people? And I thought I was going to get told off. And she said, we've done loads of courses, we funded loads of courses, and never have people felt so empowered or moved ever after doing a course. And the real big success story, there was a lot of success stories, but one that really stands out for me, I worked with a guy who was deaf. He suffered meningitis as a child, but he came on the workshops and he lip read me, and then within 2 weeks of finishing my course, he found himself a full-time job, and he'd realised that his negative thinking, his negative perspective, his negative expectation of himself had restricted him and prevented him moving forward. By me making him consciously aware of what thoughts he was thinking and making him find better feeling ones, he changed his perspective of his opportunity and potential in the world, got himself a full-time job, was flying from that point onwards. So this is how powerful this stuff is. This stuff has changed my life as well. To give you a basis of my life, I call myself a professional happiness coach now. I used to be really miserable. I suffered from 15 years of chronic fatigue. I felt knackered. But what I can say, I know what it is like to be miserable. This stuff, I was introduced to this philosophy through the film The Secret. Then, being the kind of guy I am, I need to know everything about anything that intrigues me. I have to become a master of it. And I started exploring it, found the Abraham-Hicks philosophy. I've completely submerged myself in this philosophy since that day onwards, really, in about 2007. And yeah, I've been teaching this stuff since 2009. And it cured, the first 20 minutes of the movie The Secret cured me of my chronic fatigue. It made me realise the thoughts I've been thinking were junk. I was regretful of the past, fearful of the future, and kind of a bit flat lemonade about my present. There was no energy there. This is all about energy that we'll look at tonight. So that's me. Tell me about your experience. Make this an interactive conversation. It's not all about me. Yeah, you can find out more about what I do at my website, mrhappiness2000.com. I do kind of find the Abraham-Hicks stuff has a lot of jargon attached, so I try and demystify that, make it more playful, more accessible, but it is ultimately not changing any of this, making it different, making it my own. This philosophy is so powerful, I just want to make it more accessible. What I promise tonight, I will never tell you what to think, but I will tell you how to think, because what got me out of my chronic fatigue is realising that there is a specific way that you have to think a specific direction that you have to put your thoughts in the direction of if you're ever going to feel good and be happy. Hence Mr. Happiness 2000, I can teach you that. So we are talking tonight about Abraham-Hicks, God and religion. I think this topic is so relevant because we're in an age of awakening when, for me, I feel people are discovering personal spirituality and are growing beyond conventional religion. We've been told to go to churches and pray and sing hymns, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of people are going through that conventional religion for the sake of going through it, not really feeling any energy shift. I may be wrong, hopefully conventional religions work for some of you, I'm sure it does, but for me it never did. Abraham-Hicks has made me find myself, made me find and celebrate my uniqueness, what I would say helped me find my own personal power. And I think that is what the core of their teachings is about. But first of all, let's tell you what my instinctive take on religion has always been. And the Abraham-Hicks philosophy has kind of endorsed this. Let's just first of all go to the top of the emotional scale. So here it is. Love is the highest frequency in the universe. Abraham-Hicks says we are love looking to love. Love is who we are. It is all about love. And when we focus with love and feel love, we are fulfilling our purpose for being here and are activating our full potential. I'd say the top 7 steps of the emotional scale are when we come into our power, feeling contented with life, feeling hopeful about our life, feeling optimistic about our life, having positive expectation. All of these, they're not just words, they are emotional states of being. And when we're feeling optimistic, when we're feeling positive expectation, positive belief, we feel the flow of energy through us. And that's what all this is about. And we're in our power. We are connected to source energy, which is loving energy. And life will start working for us. If we go to the bottom of the scale, I'm sure most of you know this, depression, fear, powerlessness are at the very bottom. And then, just a step up above that, unworthiness, guilt, jealousy, hatred, revenge, anger, blame, worry. How many people are worried in the world today? Then overwhelmment, frustration, impatience, pessimism, boredom. Those are all states of disconnection. A lot more states of disconnection than there are of connection. But Abraham says we are all creators, okay, and we can create our own dream life and our own dream reality using the law of attraction if we focus our minds towards what makes us feel good and hold our minds there. As I've said, life is about energy and the flow of positive energy through us, the loving source energy, which is the emotion of happiness. Whenever we feel good, we know we've got positive energy flowing through us. You're focused right, you're doing the right thing. Let's have a look a few more. Sharon's coming in from Ashford. Brilliant, Sharon. Let's have a look. So I used to be a chronic negative thinker, and my biggest breakthrough, thanks to Abraham, was that rather than let our emotions run our life, we can choose our emotions and be at the steering wheel. Absolutely, I'd say that was my learning as well, my awakening. It's becoming conscious of this stuff, isn't it? That our thoughts create our feelings. I never made that connection before. I always thought that my thoughts were just irrelevant mind chatter happening in the background, almost like a radio playing in the background that had no real relevance to the rest of my experience. When you look at this now, with wider awareness, of course your thoughts are important. It's almost like having a Ferrari or a Lamborghini to drive through life with, but what is driving the Lamborghini or the Ferrari? It's your thoughts, isn't it? It's your driver. Our thoughts are the drivers of our life. If we decide to go on holiday, it's a thought before it physically manifests. If we decide to, work as a politician for our career or whatever, it's a thought first before it becomes a manifested reality. But I was young and naive then, I didn't know this stuff. The Secret and then Abraham gave me clarity on this, as they did with Sharon. Thanks for sharing that with us, Sharon. So we are charged and electrical when plugged into source. And most importantly to me, I think what really, really, really made me believe in this philosophy and get it straight away, life is supposed to be fun. That's the fundamental of the philosophy. I was never religious. I never had religious parents, but I did go to a Church of England school where we sang Come By Yah every Monday morning and were preached quotes from the Bible. And I remember my entire experience of anything that had the label religious was just lifeless and boring. I remember that Sunday was supposed to be the religious day. It was just boring. It was like the day everyone dreaded. The shops were shut. You had to have a bath in the evening before going to school. Things like songs of praise were on television, and they would just instant change the channel, watch anything other than that. It was so tedious. Religion to me was anything but fun. I even went to Sunday school for a period of my life, my childhood, and I only went because some of my friends went, and they used to go to this Friday club, and they used to come back with loads of sweets, and I was quite envious. And I'd say, how do you get those sweets every Friday night? So they were bribed even then. That's a bit scary, isn't it? So I'd say, yeah, I want to join this Sunday school. I want to join this club to get these sweets. And so I went, and I remember I just kept laughing. There was this woman that used to sing in church really operatically, and she just made me laugh. And I got banned from Sunday school. They told me to not come back. They said I was so disruptive. Yeah, don't come back. So religion for me and religion never really got on. Not that I'm discrediting it, because hopefully it's working for some people. I'm sure it does. Yeah, but spirituality, on the other hand, different story. So I was 5 when I first saw Star Wars, and like so many of my generation, the concept of the Force resonated really deep within me, to my core, right from the age of 5. And yeah, as it did an entire generation of young people in the 70s and 80s. I think Star Wars was a repackaging of reality, of religion and spirituality. I'd say more spirituality than religion. If you think of it, it's very much in sync with the Abraham stuff, that trust your feelings. It's all about feel the force flow through you. That's what happiness is, isn't it? So I was given that message, the spiritual message, from a young age, which I completely believed in and immersed myself in, yet religion didn't work for me. And I think a lot of movies since then, Hollywood movies, very influential. Harry Potter is the sort of latest packaging of this stuff. It's about a disempowered hero finding their personal power, trust in their gut, trust in their legacy of significance and importance. And I think that's where those movies, those positive stories, really resonate with all of us. But it seems there's a massive divide that has existed maybe for decades, even centuries, between the positive intention of religion and spirituality as conveyed through the Bible and Bible passages and quotes, etc., and the way religion is actually practiced and experienced in most people's everyday life. So we come to our first clip now. Before that though, tell me what you think of what I've just said. It'd be interesting to get your experience. We're really focused on this at the end. But let me play the first clip then from Abraham, which is going to provoke our further conversation tonight. Here it is.
But one of the things I've been struggling with is with my religion. And I was born and raised, a cradle Catholic, and I've gone to church every day for years upon years upon years. My family is very, very much die-in-the-wool Catholic people. And what I've been having problem with, is going to church every Sunday has become less of a joy for me. Because I'm struggling with, the concept between heaven and hell and those things. And, I'm not sure if I, really believe, the strict Catholic doctrine that I used to as a result of, studying this material and kind of seeing a different way, so to speak.
It's a big topic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's huge.
If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would not disrupt our life and upset those around us by radical behavioral changes. Instead, we would be the evolving being that we are becoming, and we would continue to reconsider everything from our eternally evolving vantage points.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be a very frightened child in a very big world who is encouraged to find comfort and safety in the arms of a church. And it would be a good match for you. And you could become an independent being, knowing your value and knowing that you are an uplifter. And you could find great satisfaction in uplifting others as you interact with them in any environment, including in your church. Your vantage point will continue to evolve as you continue to allow yourself to become. The thing that's interesting about most religions is they are very slow to allow themselves as an organization and to allow individuals to become, because they get hold of some ideas that were beneficial at the time, we imagine, back there somewhere. And then they insist that everyone hold rigidly to those ideas, whether they apply to your now life or not. So those points of vibrational relativity get dramatically distorted as you're trying to factor in what your life experience has caused you to ask for and that which Source is agreeing with and where you stand. And then there's this other factor of what this particular body or those different interpreters of that body have to say about that. Anytime that you're factoring in anything that is outside of your own guidance system, you're setting yourself up for a more distorted journey. But we also believe that down there in the underpinnings of every religion was information that was talking about the very thing that we're talking about here and now. In other words, that would be a very good special subjects gathering for those events that you're holding in Texas, to have one on religion and even have it on specific religions if you're wanting, where we could talk about the specific precepts that religions are offering and show you the way that they dovetail more than they don't dovetail in what we are talking about here. Esther is commenting often that she was not a religious girl, but she lived in a religious town. But it never made sense to her in light of what she was feeling. She lived in a town that believed that anyone that was not a member of that church was evil. And yet her father, who was not a member of that church, she could not accept as evil. In fact, he was the most kind, most moral man, as far as Esther could see, in the entire town. It was a town that was based more upon hypocrisy than anything else. She would hear what they said from the pulpit, but she would watch what they did in their day-to-day lives. And it invalidated who they were and what they believed for Esther. And so she went to the dances and had fun in the way that she had fun, but she never bought the religion because it never felt valid. It always felt bogus. And we say, she chose very well the town into which she was born, didn't she? Because her own life experience gave her the gut feeling about all of that, you see. So, getting back to the specifics of your religion. We do not believe that there is any religion that exists on the planet today that can guide anyone effectively, because we do not see anyone involved in any religion who is able to tune into their own guidance, almost without exception. Even though there's a lot of talk about the spiritual world, and there's a lot of talk about having conversations with God, and there's a lot of talk about being tuned into the Spirit, and there's a lot of talk about your connection to all of that, we see very little effort made to really understand on a personal basis what that means. But we do know that it is possible for you to find that personal relationship with that which you call God or that which we call Source. As you have done, you're finding that personal relationship, and we think that it would only enhance your relationship with any church in which you are living, because suddenly you're making real the things that you're hearing them talking about, you see. Connection to Source is an individual thing. Religion hinders that usually more than it helps it, because most religions are more interested in what you can do for them as a body than they are helping you find your connection and becoming independently empowered. There is a premise that is at the basis of most religions that is screwy, that goes something like, and they don't say it, but it is really rampant in their vibration. Individually we are weak, but in numbers we are more powerful. And it speaks in absolute contradiction to what you knew when you came forth, as you know that every individual who connects with Source has all of the power of the universe at your fingertips. And there is no way you can use your power for evil, because as you focus in that way, you become vibrationally discordant to the energy of Source. Well, now we've stirred it up pretty good. What do you want to talk about?
Is it possible to be connected to Source and be in a religion?
Absolutely. That's the same thing as saying, is it possible to be connected to Source and interact with people who think differently than I think? And we say, of course, you be who you are and let who you are radiate. And so you could be in a religion who's frightened, and you could be confident, and you could be the one that is spreading unconditional love. In other words, you don't need to wait for anybody to catch up with what you know. Just know what you know and then shine it wherever you are. And we think in a religious environment is as good a place as any, because one thing is true, almost without exception. They're looking for something while they're there, you see. Words don't teach. You teach through the clarity of your example. And nothing would please us more than for you to be deeply involved in the religion of your choice, tuned in, turned on, tapped in, and radiating well-being, and have those around you benefit by that which they're learning from you, and give all of the credit to the church that you're attending.
Well, that's perfect.
In other words,
perfect.
who cares who gets the credit?
I agree.
We don't.
I agree.
Just appreciate the heck out of them, and make lists of their positive aspects, and push not at all against anything that they are believing. Radiate the brilliance of your connection with Source. And do you know that there were practitioners of the Catholic religion that in times gone by were understanding more of connection to Source than the majority of those who are present at this time? In other words, as religion lingers longer, connection to Source usually diminishes, because it works in opposition to independent connection with Source, because there's usually somebody that wants to get between you and Source.
So much is said in that 9-minute clip, isn't it? So, yeah, just to recap on my reaction to that clip. So, we've all been programmed from birth, like he called himself a cradle Catholic. As I said, I wasn't, but I think everyone on planet Earth has been made to be afraid by the influence that religion has on the world. You know, the concept of heaven and hell, sin and the apple in the Garden of Eden, etc. And yet fear and, you know, a sense of powerlessness and judgment, etc., are the complete antithesis of everything that the Abraham-Hicks philosophy talks about. You know, if we go to the top of the emotional scale, it's love, which is their appreciation, which he mentions. You know, you can be in the heart of a church, but as long as you appreciate and love what you're experiencing, then you're connected. Even if they're preaching fearful stuff, you just shut that out. But yeah, the religions focus so much on fear, and ultimately it's about controlling people, which they may have felt was needed in times previously. But as Abraham says, this is the age of awakening. We're stepping into our own personal power, and the more we personally feel our own sense of worthiness and sense of personal destiny, then yeah, we feel alive, and we start, and you know, no one that is connected can ever behave badly. That's what's really interesting. It's interesting because whenever you're in a society that is trying to control you, they will condemn your behaviour. That's what cults do. Yet that is what a lot of religions have done. If you step outside their boundaries, that they criticise you. One thing that's always resonated with me, they say God is love. I remember singing that song, God is love, we love God. I never win X Factor. But they say that. And then in the other hand, they're condemning, you know, homosexuality, lesbians, gays, anything that is outside of the outside of the conservative worldview. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. On one hand, you say God is love, and on the other hand, you're saying something else. And I think this is why a lot of the world is rejecting religions now. We've outgrown them. It's like a pair of shoes that once fit us, but we've outgrown them. I think the teachings, they're too small for us now. They cause us pain, and they just don't fit us anymore. But Abraham says religions can work if you find fun in religion. If going to church and being part of a religious group makes you feel good, it's working for you. It's all personal. My opinions are nothing to do with your experience, your life experience. And one positive aspect of church is its sense of community. I'm very aware, especially post-COVID or whatever you want to call this strange time we're in, the fact, we've been denied meeting with people for 2 years now, and church provides a sort of a nucleus for societies where you can meet regularly and have physical friendships, and bringing people in the same locality together. And I think that's where churches serve communities positively. They create community. You meet people. We all have our own connection to source, yet most religions tell us we have to do what they tell us or we're cursed. That's where it's going wrong. Let's see what some of your comments are coming through now. It is possible to attend religious meetings while being connected to source, of course, but in my experience, it is tricky with some of them. Yeah, they can be quite brainwashing. You must do as we say or you're doomed. That's where it goes a bit tits up, isn't it? Yeah, they're usually quite dogmatic and judging. I think it is the judgment. We're going to come back to that, but that's about where they are, and they're, anyone that is critical, anyone that is judging, anyone that is lacking compassion, that's about where they are, and that is always a state of disconnection. That doesn't mean to be where you are. So no, brilliant comment, Sharon. Keep sharing, otherwise it's me talking all evening. Let me play this second clip now. So we're going to keep evolving this conversation.
I'm challenged because I grew up in a religion, and I love my faith and the person it has helped me become. This religion has been passed down from man, and it teaches that having sex before and outside marriage is a sin that will be severely punished in the afterlife, along with drinking alcohol. I've abstained from both most of my 36 years of life as a man who was born and raised in the United States. Since I've been introduced to Abraham, my world has expanded and shifted. I'm single and I want to have sex before marriage and drink alcohol. My challenge is that if I do these things from a place of alignment with my inner being and source, I'm afraid that I'll be punished in this life by God. And if not in this life, I'm afraid that I will be punished in the afterlife, such as burning in hellfire. All right, so there are billions of people on your planet who could have written this. And we want to speak to you because words don't teach, in order to elicit from you the part of you that is non-physically focused, to help you find some resonance, some logic, some reason with some of these things. So, now if you've been listening to us for a while, you know that we say, and we say because we know, that that which is non-physical is pure positive energy. There's no pushing against, which means it's the end of the stick where love exists, not the end of the stick where absence of love exists. And whether you call it God, or as we do, source energy, or all that is, it is our absolute knowing that love is what that is, and that the absence of it cannot abide in that vibration. It does not exist. Man has turned God into something that source energy is not. The very guidance system, emotional guidance system that exists within you is because of the existence of that loving force or source of energy. That some call it God force, and we think it's a good label for it. That pure, positive love that would never be withheld from you. And those who believe that it would have not tasted it and do not know it. The deprivation of source is what negative emotion represents, and it is self-inflicted. When you hold yourself in an attitude of unworthiness, you've got your train, your vibration moving in that direction, but your source will not move in that direction with you. Your source will never stop loving and start hating. Your source will never stop loving and want to punish you now or in the afterlife. That's a concoction of man's desire to control other humans. By man, don't write letters to Esther, we mean human. You are loved, and you are love. And when you feel something other than that, that's a good time for you to decide that you'll inactivate that. The very existence of negative emotion is proof to you that you're moving in opposition to what your inner being truly knows and is. So as you deactivate little by little, and it takes some doing, those concerns and fears and truly irrational thoughts that are inconsistent with everything that we know to be about this ongoing, pure, positive energy stream of love that is source. You will find your heart lifting, and you'll find yourself knowing. And in time, you will be able to understand precisely in any moment in time what is the direction of the thought, or what is the thought that you're thinking that is not allowing the fullness of what God's love is for you to flow. It's quite an interesting thing that so many religions have set into place centuries ago, that they are continuing to reactivate, to keep active, to try to control. They say, do this and you'll be blessed, and do this and you won't, and do this and you'll be punished, and do this and you won't. And so you listen and you take them at their word. They seem sincere about it. And then you start noticing from your own life experience that there are people who seem to be thriving who you know are breaking rules, and people who don't seem to be breaking rules, they're trying really hard to keep all the rules, who seem to be being punished. I know that person has never had sex outside of marriage and doesn't drink any alcohol and has never told a lie to anyone. I know that for a fact. I know this person really well. This is the most upstanding, pure, keeping all the rules that have been outlined person I've ever known. And this person is suffering in this way and in this way. And then those people from those places say to you, well, you cannot know it from what's going on in this life experience. That's where that afterlife thing came in. You'll get your reward or punishment after life. You can't tell. You just have to take our word for it and keep the rules. And we say, what kind of a source energy would put you in a position where it's just a big guessing game, where there's no guidance, where there are billions of people on the planet, so many of them telling you different things are required of you in order to be blessed? How would you ever sort that out?
But can't you feel the absolute logic? Doesn't it resonate with you at the core of your being? That you have source within you who is offering such a steady stream of love that when you deviate from it, you know it? Doesn't that sort of love from source energy make sense to you? That source energy that you are so afraid of here would never test you like that. That source energy does not require the jumping through hoops in order for you to then be rewarded with something. The blessings are flowing to you constantly, and it is your job to let them in by mimicking the love that source is with the love that you are feeling for yourself and for others, you see. You can show yourself what true source is by finding moments in time where you're actually being like that. You know the difference between love and hate? You know the difference between loving someone and feeling mean toward them? You know the difference between appreciation and criticism? You know this. You have felt it. You have felt this love from this being that you now are telling us that you worry could hate you, even though you felt that love. You know that love. Your life experience has shown that to you. Yes?
Wow, all of this is so powerful. That's just a 9-minute clip. It says so much, doesn't it? So thanks for those that Sharon and Tina that shared comments. I put them on screen. So this clip comes from someone whose religion has made him switch off his connection to source. The programming, that religious programming he's received is detrimental to his individual life experience. How many of you have experienced this? I know I have. I remember without going into detail, but it was the cause of my chronic fatigue. I had a really exhilarating moment in my life over 20 odd years ago now, and I was terrified of feeling so good, and it was like, oh my God, and I was more worried about the sort of societal programming than I was about my individual feeling state. And that feeling state, I think it's what's led me to being a happiness coach, because it was so intoxicating, so electrifying. Once you've had that kind of connection, you can't let it go. Yeah, I know I killed it through the fears, through fearful thinking, which came from, even though I'm not religious, which came from specific programming. What I think is what I sort of take away from that, listening to that clip, in love, and remember, God is love. Like we're all told that. There is no criticism, there's no condemnation, no judgment. So if your religion is doing any of this, and a lot of them are, it's not loving you, so it cannot really serve you. And I just want to share with this, because this was an experience over the last 2 years that I've had. I had a friend who's no longer in my life because, we didn't match, but they were really programmed by their religion, and literally every sentence that they said was, but God says this, God says that. And so she had this programming, but it was all lip service, because she was living a life of suffering. She had no connection. She never had any sense of personal power. Everyone had to do everything for her, or she got frustrated or really angry and bitter and negative and critical. And her life was one of struggle. She had no self-belief or confidence. She was really needy, which repelled a lot of people, which in turn, become a vicious circle. And she became embittered, because why are people not wanting to be around her? And this, of course, leads to self-fulfilling prophecy, leads to a lot of bitchy judgment and condemnation of others. And yet every sentence she said was, but God is protecting me, God is this, God is that. And it's clearly religion becomes lip service. Quoting the Bible becomes lip service. And if there's no inner connection, no inner emotional exhilaration, no feeling of source energy, then the religion is not worth working, it's just empty. And it reminded me of Dot Cotton from EastEnders, that, she was constantly quoting God and trying to be a good Christian, yet her life was one of misery, of utter pain and constant suffering. Abraham teaches the complete opposite, and I think that's where we are moving into a world now of personal spirituality, personal individual power, because it is finding the individual feeling of source connection and then living with that. That's where you can't help but fulfill your potential. It's like the Abraham, the Maslow hierarchy of needs, that you achieve self-actualization by connecting with source and feeling happy and allowing yourself. You're guided automatically when you feel good. That's the work, and that's what Abraham just says with this philosophy. Find thoughts that feel good, everything else will click into place if you trust. Again, it's having a wider belief system, and that works alongside the feeling state. But I think religions have become corporations, and dare I say it, a soulless mass machine of huge social power, but whose ultimate message is largely empty. They are connected with governments that endorse wars and the dropping of bombs on millions of people. Where is the love in that? And yet the religions themselves are preaching God is love. Yet if they can then endorse the dropping of bombs on people, mothers and children, where is the love? It's clear that whoever is running these churches and accepting these actions has got no love within them. They would not endorse that kind of brutality. So the world is being led by people who have no experience of the connection that they're preaching, and I think it's up to us individuals to find our connection and change the world, which is maybe why Abraham has arrived in the world at this point in time. Religion has become a job, not a vocation. People are wearing the cloths, wearing the uniform, performing in the buildings, but their words are empty. And Abraham says our power is not outside of us, it's within us. Attending Mass weekly and praying to God is all pointless if we don't have a true emotional connection with source energy. Embracing a loving attitude towards the world, being optimistic, loving others, seeing the best in others. Knowing your own personal power and your personal ability to positively impact on the world. That's why we're here, and that's when we really start to live, when we're living life at that level. Let's see what some of you are saying now. Sharon says, I listened to Abraham's podcast clip called The Purpose of Evil, and it says that just as there isn't a darkness switch but a stopping of the light. Absolutely, I think she does say murderers and thieves have had a long time of disconnection, and they're almost flailing out of the pain of that disconnection. I've seen that in personal relationships up front, in family members where they've had ongoing pain, and their behaviour just gets worse and worse and worse. And then that's what a lot of the addictions are about. They're a temporary block to the pain of no disconnection. I had 15 years of chronic fatigue. I know exactly what that connection feels like. It zaps the life out of you. You've just got no charge. It is pain. Luckily, I didn't, descend to levels of darkness that other people do. So in the same way, the evil is not allowing the light. And again, it's that conscious awareness. But there was a really good posting from Abraham today. If you get their daily quotes, and they said, people are ready when they're ready. You just annoy people if you preach to them or tell them of this philosophy when they're not ready to hear it. It is that blah, 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 heard it all before, shut up, you don't know where I am kind of thing. I feel you have to disconnect the idea of God from the idea of religion. There is faith, and then there is organisations. That is fantastic, and that leads us straight into our next clip. Let me play this now. Sharon, you know where this is going. Let's listen to this.
Cool, let's do it. Okay, so it was once described to me that along this path we are not doing, we're just living like normal humans, and then we learn about the law of attraction. And as we learn about the law of attraction, and
We would say instead of that during all of that time that you're living life, you're learning about law of attraction. And so your life experience is teaching you about it. And then when someone points it out in a very concise way, you feel the resonance of what you've already taught yourself. And then you go through a portal where things shift. It's like moving into the next vehicle.
Get it? Yeah. Okay, so as we get really good at it and our belief in the law of attraction turns into knowing.
And how do you feel while that's happening? How do you feel as you're getting really good at it?
Good.
Yeah, you feel good. Are you basing it on how you feel or the results you're getting, or both?
Both.
Excellent. What now?
Okay, so we are learning this and we're getting good at it. We see that the totality of everybody and everything and how it's feeding in and how we're kind of, it creates that oneness feeling.
And thank you everyone for all of it. You want to
Yes.
feel, you feel. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So, but it was described to me one time that once you get really good at that and your ego dissolves, and
Oh, your ego doesn't dissolve because your ego is how you focus.
Okay.
But that negative ego that is in competition ceases to exist, while your super ego, which we would call your inner being, is dominant. Super sense of self. Call it anything you want. Ego is a pretty good word.
Okay.
Ego has negative connotations because most people approach life from a sort of combative point of view. Yes, we interrupted you, but we just want to make that clarification. So where were you going?
Okay, so where I'm going is we're asking and we're receiving and we're listening to this inner voice, and it was described to me that at some point you'll stop asking for yourself and you'll start asking, how can I serve God? And that's never really sat well with me, because I feel like this asking, like, why would Abraham teach me to listen to myself all the time? And then all of a sudden I get really good at it, and now I have to listen to this God thing that's outside of me. Isn't that God thing the thing that's been talking to me the whole time? So there's never ever a sense that I have to do the work for God. As long as I'm listening, then I'm doing that,
And
right?
in the moment you try to do that, you separate yourself from the very thing you've been trying to find all along. That's why we've been teasing you a little bit, saying that humans have serviceitis. Servitude-itis. And by that what we mean is you sort of are missing the point. You are God. You are.
I love it.
You are.
I love it. Cool.
And someone who was a very good ambassador from your point of view of God, which is Jesus, understood that if you sat before him dripping your illness, he didn't see your illness. Instead, he knew your wellness. He saw you in your God form, not in your human form where you were slightly disconnected from it. And so when you're tuned into that, that is when you do your greatest service. We're not trying to talk you out of service. It feels wonderful to be of value to others. We just want you to plug your vacuum in before you try to vacuum the floor. If you're not plugged in to the source energy, then you have nothing to give. So you can't serve without knowing who you are.
That is so powerful. But the statement you all have to take away from this: you can't vacuum the floor unless you've plugged in the vacuum cleaner. How brilliant an analogy is that? That just makes me laugh so much. It is all about our connection. We have to be connected. Yeah, just recapping on the previous one as well. So much of the world feels unworthy, self-loathing, which creates a disconnection. And the concepts of original sin, shame and guilt coming from religions, programmed into us from early years, substantiate this, leading to disconnection. No one in those emotions of sin, shame and guilt can be connected to source. It's miles apart. So the only solution is to realise our significance. And for a lot of people will really balk at the fact, we're God. How arrogant is that? But I think if it makes sense, if you think everything in the universe is energy, it's the same energy. We are the God energy. We are physical manifestations of God, the God energy. It depends if you think of God as being this, it's always a white man, isn't it, with a beard, sat on a cloud, or if everything's energy, which is what Star Wars says, the Force. It surrounds us, penetrates us, binds the galaxy together. Yeah, this is where we're headed now. A world of personal spirituality where we all realise our power and significance. Everyone is a creator. Everyone is made of the same energy of the universe. And our work is to use that energy and focus it to create the world we want. We're all God. We are all significant. We are all here to love. When we love, as I've said countless times on this stream tonight, when we love, we're connected. It feels so good. Why would you not want to be connected? Only in our connection to the love of source energy do we have any power. And ego is not arrogance. It is our point of personal preference and our focus. We are here to get what we want. We have to be in love with life and ourselves before life can work for us. Religions have deactivated us of our power in the past. It's time for us to individually step up, recognise our worth, and begin living powerful, consciously intentional lives for ourselves, using our own inner feelings as our guidance, no longer being manipulated by those outside of us who claim to be the font of all knowledge. We've almost been children, and now society's starting to grow up, and we're ready to stand on our own feet. Let me know what you think of that. We're coming to the end. Let me play this other clip now.
Well, that which man calls God is very different from man's image of God. Because God has made man, but man is now remaking God in man's image. In other words, man forms a perspective of something and then tries to make everything fit into that, and there is tremendous distortion in that process. You are accurate when you feel that you are that which is God, both from your physical and your non-physical perspective. The combination of you and all of the rest of us is what God is, because God is consciousness that is expanding. Sometimes humans feel unsettled about that because there are so many who have been happier seeing God as just an exaggerated version of man, someone very much like man but just bigger and hopefully smarter, and with all of the answers. And so in the process of making that image of God, man has subverted his own image of self. In other words, he has humbled himself by making this distinction of this superior God, which makes him the inferior mortal. And on that basis, man has separated himself from that which is God, which is sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? People have said to us in gatherings like this, Abraham, you have disrupted my image of God. Some have even said, Abraham, you do not talk of God much, and I want to know why that is. And we said, we don't talk of anything other than what you call God. In other words, we are that energy. You are that energy. We are all in this together, but we certainly acknowledge that it is not easy to see the big picture from the physical format. But it is easier and easier to feel the big picture from the physical format. In other words, when you, through your appreciation of another or of a flower, find a vibration that puts you in alignment with that which is source energy, so that you are that energy, when there is no separation between the energy that is God and who you are in that moment, then you have knowledge of that. In other words, under those conditions, you don't question so much. Usually when people are questioning their relationship with God, it's when they have gotten themselves into a vibrational quagmire where they are far vibrationally from the energy that is that. And it's so interesting. Do you know the majority of prayers that are offered from physical humans is from a place of utter disconnection of that which they are hoping to receive? And so man, in his effort to pray and receive guidance, actually enhances his separation between who he really is and the God that he is reaching for. Jerry and Esther have a dear, dear friend who is a minister, has been a minister of more than one church, different denominations, and says to his congregation on a rather regular basis, I used to pray for God, but he was always out to lunch. And we say, you must be in vibrational alignment before you know that which you are reaching for. And when you are in vibrational alignment, the lack of separation is something that you know viscerally, you know vibrationally, not so much intellectually. And then, of course, to be in sync with that energy and feel infinite intelligence pouring through you In time, you have all answers to all questions. And the first question we want you to ask is, who am I? And our answer is, you are God. And the next question we want to hear from you is, and how am I doing? And the answer that we want you to hear is, you are doing exceptionally well. You are right on track. And the next question we want you to ask is, how can my life be better? And we say, seek things that feel good to you when you focus upon them. And the next question that we want you to ask is, how am I doing? And the answer is, exceptionally well. And the next question we want you to ask is, what will come next? And we say, whatever it is you choose. And the next question that we want you to ask is, well, will you not choose for me? And the answer is, we are choosing with you, but we are not choosing for you. And when you are in vibrational alignment with that which is us, the choices that we make together are those choices that we all intended when you made the decision to come forth into this physical body to begin with. It's closing the gap, solving the separation, becoming one with who you are in your joyous endeavor, and then being the God in physical form that is natural to you. You have glimpses of that as you were translating that book. You were in vibrational alignment with that. You know that power. Esther feels it as she feels us pour through her. She knows that she is in alignment with that which is source. And she revels in the feeling of ecstasy as the words fly from her. In other words, there's no question in her mind that she's in vibrational alignment with infinite intelligence, or God if you want to call it that. She can feel the power of it and the clarity of it and the goodness of it and the love of it, you see. But words don't teach. You have to have your own personal experience in order to have that knowing. And that's why every word that is uttered through Esther, that is offered from us, is a word and now translated by you to help others understand that you are the creator of your own reality. You are the God that is the creator of worlds, you see. Don't be humble and try to make yourself apart from that. Embrace it and accept it and ride that wave.
How good is that? That's amazing, isn't it? We've got one more comment from, it's fine, from Sharon. I love the analogies from Eckhart Tolle. How we are like a ray of the sun, still part of the sun, or like a ripple on the ocean, but still part of the ocean. So many spiritual teachers or churches, whatever, say this, don't they? That we're all kind of segments, that are fractured fragments of the same. We're all symbiont, and yet they, you go to these churches or whatever organisations, and there's a power structure. No, we're more important than you. What we say is more important than what you think. And it's like, no, that's where it's gone screwy. It becomes about control. Brilliant. That's so cool. And then it is easy to accept that, yes, God is indeed love, but not in the way church organisations teach. Absolutely. I think we've outgrown it. I think we're, and it feels so good to be connected. Why would you ever want to live like this otherwise? But hey, we've learnt this. Hopefully everyone on this call, if we could do, and what Abraham says, you can't tell this to people. Just live the example, and then when people ask, what the hell are you doing? Tell them. Just say, I just find thoughts that feel good, and that's it. And it just gives you energy. You need less sleep. You don't get stressed. You enjoy life. That annoys people sometimes in my experience. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, one final joke. Next time then, so when you're in a room, someone says, oh God, say, yep. What do you want? You got to say that. Any more questions or any more comments? We're coming to the end now. That is it. So hopefully, the purpose of this, as I said, was not to discredit religion. There are positives if it's working for you in religion. But it is so important to know your significance and individual power with any organisation, because your connection to source is the most important thing. You are here on this planet for a purpose. You're not here as a movie extra. You're here, to do your own thing, create your own life. None of us are, here just to support others, kind of thing. We're all significant. We are all A-list cast members, no matter what we're doing in life, no matter what salary we're on or where we're living, what the size of our house, etc. No, thank you, Sharon. So brilliant. Hope you've all had a good evening then. Hope you've enjoyed this. I will be back next month. Not sure what the topic is right now, but you'll see it posted on Meetup and Eventbrite as well. Take care, everyone. Just find thoughts that feel good. Life is supposed to be fun. Enjoy the weeks between until we meet again. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye. Let me turn this off. It's now turning off. Turn up.